Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Carla and Crappy Show. It is week 4 of the college football season, and therefore week 4 of the Carla and Crappy Show. I am Crappy. I am in my my office, my home office in Pittsburgh. And there's Carla, and she's like sitting in some random warehouse in Nashville, just judging from the boxes that were sitting on the floor that she may or may not show you guys. But I got to see them anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm surrounded by boxes. Welcome to the new studio. Hi. This is my new home office. Which I literally just put the lamp lighting in. I actually tweeted that before the show, recording this on Tuesday. Yes. I said that I was in the process of trying to adjust lighting in here, because new lamp and new wall color and how do I angle lamps and get bouncing light and all that fun stuff. So, but yeah, we're excited.
It looks good.
It does look good. I only have a little tiny window that I'm looking at, but I'm happy. It's good. I have good internet connection up here, and
nice.
All is well. Other than the fact that, I'm surrounded by boxes that I probably, there. No, you can't see them. But
no, you can. But
I'd have to move the laptop to show them. But yeah, you can't walk in here. There's just boxes and stuff everywhere. But we've been here. We've slept here 4 nights now, so we got time.
I watched Carla like jump on furniture to get to the seat where she was, crawling over the desk. I'm lying about that. I did not actually see that. She might have done that, but I didn't actually see it.
You should have seen me trying to move that lamp in. Because I had to like move 2 boxes and try to not trip while I was moving. Fortunately, that's a light lamp, but
okay,
yeah.
Good. Yep. That's good. I did notice in the process of moving that you actually had a screen set up that looked larger than like a computer monitor. So maybe you got to see a little college football on Saturday.
Not much. I'm not gonna lie. We had a crazy weekend with the move and all, and we didn't get around to trying to set up a television until about midpoint of the day. We were listening to games. We had games streaming on our Bluetooth speaker.
Oh, that counts.
Keeping an ear on things.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't. I missed the entirety of the Penn State Pitt game.
Mm-hmm.
Which stinks because who knows next time those 2 teams will play. So, but I missed the entirety of that.
It will do that again.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. But we did finally get the TV and all the streaming services set up in time to watch some of the nightcap games. So it was good. So we watched football over dinner. So that was good. So I did see a little tiny bit of football, but I'm hoping you saw more than I did.
I watched a bunch, which was the first day of the season that I really had a chance to sort of wallow in college football
because you weren't in the stadium. So
I'm not in a stadium. I don't have to deal with I don't have to deal with packing for a tailgate and any of that stuff. I pretty much told Kelly this, like, okay, if you need me, I'm gonna be on the couch. Let's try to keep the interruptions to a minimum. We both watched Ohio State and Indiana, and then she went off and started doing things, and I just flipped and flipped and flipped, and it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great afternoon. And of course, my one thing is going to be about Ohio State. So it's like I didn't actually learn anything from watching all these other games, except for just its sheer entertainment value. But I should ask you first,
mm-hmm.
even with your somewhat limited viewing time this past weekend, do you have one thing that you learned in the college football world?
I have one comment and one thing I learned.
Okay.
The first comment, because I didn't see a minute of the game, but I did hear a little bit of it, was Iowa State doing its very best Cal Washington impersonation.
Oh my God! I was speaking of flipping channels. I was like, that game had been off in a weather delay for so long that I forgot about it. And I came back. I was looking for like whatever channels of the Fox Sports 1 nightcap, and I'm like, oh right, the Corn Bowl is still going on. And I'm glad I found it because the end of it, it was a good game.
It was a great game.
I'm happy to see the end of it.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was definitely one of those that I'll have to look at the total like time between those 2 games to see which game went longer. Iowa may have gone longer.
The Corn Bowl went on for a long time. That started at 4, I think.
No, it was a 2:30 kick.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, because I was driving over to the apartment when I heard they kicked off, and then they were like, it's going into a weather delay, and I was like, okay, well that's a bummer. And then I listened to it. The game had resumed after we had done about 2 hours worth of cleaning over at the old place. And they're like, the game is resuming. And we're like, okay, great. And so I'm listening to that. And then it went back to another weather delay. And before I got back to the house.
Long one, too.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm interrupting. So what are your comments and concerns?
Okay, so that was my comment. Was just that there was a great 2 weeks in a row now with crazy long games. Yes. The thing that I learned, and it's really the only game that I can say that I saw all weekend, was because my husband is a UF grad. We watched Florida, Kentucky, which remarkably is a game we didn't talk about last week, because that's normally a game that's high on everybody's radar, especially with Kentucky actually being pretty decent.
Yeah, and beating Florida at Florida last year.
Yeah. And this was kind of par for the weekend. I know that both having Pittsburgh connections, that all we've heard about all weekend is injured quarterbacks. Yes. and that was really the storyline in the Florida Kentucky game too, is Florida losing Felipe Franks for the season, in an ugly play, bad enough that ESPN wouldn't replay it. So he's gone for the season. But I will say this: I know I bashed the Florida offense quite a bit, because it's like, where's Florida's offense? I'm still not convinced that Florida knows how to play offense. Kyle Trask did just fine in filling it. And he was in a tough situation. He was 9 for 13 for 126 yards for somebody who really hasn't seen a ton of playing time. And the team rallied around him. Now, I know that's what tends to happen when, when your quarterback goes down for an injury, everybody rallies around the second stringer. But I'll be really interested. This makes the game that wasn't on my radar, that now suddenly is back on my radar for this weekend, is Tennessee, Florida. Because it's a game in the swamp. It's going to be really interesting to see this Tennessee team that really, really, really could use a good win, going into hostile territory in the swamp, a rivalry game with a backup quarterback on the home sideline. That game is suddenly really, really interesting. But I was impressed by Kyle Trask and his role in kind of coming in and leading the Gators from behind. That was a nice win for Florida. So. Nice. But yeah, that was the only game that I really kind of got to watch.
Okay.
What did you learn about Ohio State?
Well, I mean, it's just it's more. I'm going to subject you guys to what may or may not be a season-long sort of navel gazing thing when we don't specifically talk about a game. I mean, I'm still watching, and I tell you what, it's September, and I really try to temper what my expectations are and how I'm feeling about the season. But man, if you win 51-9 road game in the conference, in your division, against a team with a solid offense, I mean, Indiana is capable of scoring a lot, and I'm sure they will. Geez, I continue to be impressed, and maybe the telling thing here. Poor Justin Fields. He was only 14 of 24 for about 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I was reading stuff about him, like apologizing to the team for his performance against Indiana. So it's like, okay, I'm trying not to get too excited here. I'm trying really hard because it's September. And we won't find anything about Ohio State this week with Miami of Ohio in Columbus, but the next 3 are all night games. We just learned Nebraska will have I think a 7:30 kick. 2 of those are on the road, Nebraska and Northwestern, with Sparty in Columbus sandwiched in between. And I think by the end of that stretch, I reserve the right to be excited about what Ohio State may or may not be doing. We'll see. We'll see. But for right now, it's sort of like, okay. And my favorite name in college football this year is Master Teague. He is Ohio State's backup tailback, who also rushed for 100 yards in addition to J.K. Dobbins in Indiana. So that was a cool thing. He's a big dude too, but he can also move. So he's going to be one to watch for a while. But we will have, as I said, we have lots of time to talk about Ohio State. So we have our standard issue 3 games to talk about all on Saturday. Before we get to there, as you may recall, we debuted our new, what will be a weekly feature for the rest of this season. And it is called the Weekly Clemsoning Index. Clemsoning is, of course, the propensity for the Clemson Tigers to perhaps not focus quite as much on lesser opponents as they should, and maybe to the point of being upset. So every week we're gonna take a look at who's Clemson is playing, and our take on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being like we're positive Clemson is going to get Clemsoned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the right conjugation. Yes.
Thank you. We're gonna and 1 being the least. This week, really quick, the Charlotte 49ers are at Clemson. Clemson is favored by 41.5 points. Carla, is what's your Clemsoning index for the week?
I'm gonna give that one like a 2. I don't see this being an issue. Charlotte may cover. Because 41 is a huge line. That's absurd. Like I'll say Charlotte might cover and only lose by 40.
Okay.
But yeah, no, this is a 2 for me.
My Clemsoning index this week is a 1. I have it written in my notes. A 1. Really, I mean, this is intended more for like middle of the road ACC teams. And as we've said, Clemson is past the interesting part of the schedule. It has nothing super challenging, maybe until the ACC title game, if that.
If that, right? Yeah.
And then whatever else happens in bowl season. So Charlotte is not that team. So Clemson index at a 1, and we will return back and check on that next week. We start our regular games with a slobber knocker at noon on Saturday. Number 11 Michigan at number 13 Wisconsin. Wisconsin is favored by 3.5 points. As I was looking at this before this week's ratings came out, and I was thinking, is the right, because this was Michigan was still number 10. I'm like, wow, is the right team in the top 10 here? I'm not sure, but what do you think? What do you see about this one?
No, and that's a great question. Because the first thing that I have in my notes was to steal something that you said last week. What the heck's wrong with Michigan? I mean, we kind of threw that out there and just kind of left it because we had so many other games to talk about last week. But it's a real question at this point. The offense just really hasn't gelled at all. It seems to be a little bit at disarray. Now, you and I were both skeptical of Shea Patterson last year anyway. And I'm still not 100% sold that offense really has figured anything else. But here's the interesting thing, and I looked up the statistics on this. It's the Michigan defense of all things, which is crazy. Because the defense was supposed to be the solid piece of this team. And it's been kind of the signature piece for the Wolverines for a long time now. They're giving up 272 yards per game against MTSU and Army. Like, you know, that's the head scratcher for me, is what's going on with this defense. We don't know anything more other than those first 2 games for Michigan because they had a nicely timed bye this past weekend. So they've had extra time to prepare for Wisconsin, which is which is a good thing. And that's something to keep in mind. But gosh, you look at this Wisconsin team, 517 yards of offense, only giving up a little over 100 yards game on defense.
Yeah.
And this is just 20 yards a game rushing. Like, that's insane. Even against cupcake talent, to only give up 20 yards a game, and they've pitched two shutouts. They haven't allowed a point all season. So you have an offense led by a quarterback whose last name is not Hornibrook for the first time in like 472 years. That's firing on all cylinders. At least it looks like. Now, yes, again, couch those a little bit because we're playing cupcakes. I get that.
Yes.
But 517 yards of offense and 107 yards allowed on defense. That's substantial regardless of what the caliber of opponent is. And, you know, Jack Cohn has had 564 yards of and 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he hasn't earned a pick yet. And, of course, they still have, you know, that little guy named Jonathan Taylor in the backfield.
Him.
Yeah, him. And they're playing at Camp Randall.
Yes.
Badgers win this game. I don't. I am baffled by the fact that Wisconsin is ranked lower at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything on paper here says Badgers win, and convincingly.
It feels like the voters in the AP poll are just kind of slow to acknowledge exactly how wrong they've been about Michigan.
Yeah.
And I'm going to argue with you a little bit here because I mentioned this before. Michigan lost so much on defense that I expected a drop off there. I mean, it's not a question of talent. They've had exceptional recruiting classes, but
experience.
But in that case, yeah, experience.
Yeah.
And they're giving up 21 points a game. Not terrible, but not great. And I don't think that's not an indication of a top 10 team. And for me, the bigger disconnect is on offense, because I read about this over and over and over. Shea Patterson was going to be the best quarterback in the Big Ten, and Michigan was going to smoke everybody. And I'm still waiting to see evidence that the Michigan's offense is competent. It's maybe that's too strong, but I mean they have not looked good to this point. Wisconsin, unlike last year, looks like Wisconsin. Exceptional defense, yes, check. Heisman Trophy candidate running behind a wall of bratwurst, check.
Yes.
Alex Hornibrook at quarterback, no, and that's probably a good thing. He is playing, and you can see me doing the air quotes, playing his 12th senior year at Florida State. But fear not, Jack Cohn is a way better than just a caretaker. And he's been way better than Shea Patterson. 76% completion rate, 5 touchdown passes, no picks, as you mentioned. Yes, I'm wearing an Ohio State jersey that points out how badly we beat you last year. But I would say this even as an impartial observer. The way Michigan has struggled with Middle Tennessee State and with Army, there is no way they're going to win this game on the road in Madison. So Michigan is, I think, really clearly the loser going into that one. Next up at 3:30 on Saturday, we have number 8 Auburn at number 17 Texas A&M. A&M is favored by 4. What do you see?
Welcome to the SEC, Bo Nix.
Hello.
Yeah. Now, okay. So the last time we all kind of saw Bo Nix at the national level was his last minute heroics against Oregon, and I give him a lot of credit. I mean, he did look like a quarterback that is capable of leading that team. You're going into a very hostile environment. Kyle Field is one of the toughest places to play. Especially in the SEC has tough places to play to begin with, but Kyle Field is a unique environment. 2:30 SEC kind of feature, SEC feature game in the afternoon. That's going to be a whole new experience for him. These two teams cannot get more statistically even. I mean, they are mirror images of each other on paper. They both, within 1 yard of each other in yards per game on offense, and within just like 20 yards of yards allowed on defense, like that. So they're very evenly matched teams. The one thing that's interesting here is you do have a strength on strength battle, because I was digging into statistics just because I like digging into numbers. Auburn has averaged 281 yards per game rushing. So Auburn has really kind of thrived with running the ball, which makes sense when you have a freshman quarterback. Right. That you're trying to get a little bit more on the ground. The Aggies defense has only given up 83 yards per game rushing. So that's some, and so that's going to be a stranglehold that Auburn's going to have to try to figure out. They're going to have to rely on the arm of Bo Nix to really kind of loosen up that defense a bit. And is the freshman ready for that? I will say both of these teams have been tested by ranked opponents, because Texas A&M played Clemson and played decently
and played pretty well. Yeah.
I mean, they lost that game, and the score looked a little bit lopsided. But I mean, they were in that game until probably midway through the third quarter, and then Clemson kind of did its thing and finally kind of pulled away a bit. Auburn defense is weaker in the pass game than so. This is really, really kind of a toss-up kind of game for me, but I feel better again, and this burned me last time I picked against Auburn with going with the more experienced hand as opposed to the freshman. Right. And Kellen Mond is a good quarterback. He's already thrown for over 700 yards. He has a propensity to throw interceptions, though, so there is an opportunity here.
I used the same word, propensity to
To
throw the
throw
ball
it.
to the other team.
Yeah, five touchdowns and 3 interceptions. It's like we've been doing this show for 8 years together or something. I don't know.
I know.
This is really these two teams are really evenly matched. I'm going to lean Aggies in this one just because I think I'm going to go with the team playing at home with the experienced hand. I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a close battle, and I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. But I think Aggies.
Okay. I will say this for Bo Nix. In addition to the heroics in the season opener against Oregon, he has the most SEC quarterback name of anyone I can think of since Peyton Manning. So we're going back to the mid '90s.
Or his dad.
I think Peyton's usurps Archie, and I'm not sure.
No. I meant Bo Nix's dad.
Oh, what was his name?
I don't remember his first name, but he was a quarterback at Auburn.
Yeah, I know. This is another family tradition. I'm also not sure where Eli Manning would fit into this. I tend to not be as impressed with the name or the skills Eli as I am with Peyton, but that is neither.
Well, two things: never trust a Harbaugh.
Right.
Never trust a Manning.
And that one goes back even further. So yeah. But anyway, Bo Nix has looked the part so far, especially in the Oregon game. Maybe a bit erratic, 4 TDs versus 2 picks. So not, in terms of those numbers, not super productive. But it's, that last second touchdown pass to beat Oregon was spectacular.
Yeah, it was.
Asking a true freshman, even the one with the best SEC quarterback name in a couple decades, to play his first road game in College Station in front of 1,000 people who live in the middle of a pasture, who don't have anything to do but practice screaming at you. They are screaming at you, Bo Nix. That's a hard thing. That is not an easy thing. A&M, as you pointed out, is pretty good. They were pretty good against Clemson. They may turn out to be the biggest regular season test that Clemson gets. They score a bit more. They give up a few fewer points, as you mentioned. And A&M quarterback Kellen Mond has looked pretty good, minus a propensity to throw the ball to the other team. I wanted to read that verbatim since Carla and I had the same, pretty much the same verbiage. Right here. It would take that kind of help. It would take a couple of mistakes from Kellen Mond, I think, for Auburn to win this game. And I think, and maybe they do. Maybe, he does that. Maybe that'll be the case on Saturday, but a true freshman in that situation, man, that's tough. I don't think Auburn will get as much help as it probably needs. So I'm going to pick Texas A&M here. And then we have our first 2019 appearance of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Number 7 Notre Dame at number 3 Georgia. Georgia is favored by 13.5 points at home. I did not say this. This is a primetime game, 8 p.m. on CBS Saturday night. Carla, how the Domers going to do?
Well, you remember last year how we had this thing of, dear God, please let somebody beat Notre Dame already.
Yeah.
Georgia, this is your opportunity to put that to bed for this season for us.
And it feels like they're ready for it.
It does feel like they're ready for it. I really only have 2 notes on this game. Because I'm very convinced that Georgia is going to put us out of that, for the love of God, somebody please beat Notre Dame already, to bed for the 2019 season. First of all, the one bonus, the one good thing that Notre Dame has going for it, Notre Dame offense will put Georgia's secondary to the test.
Yes.
They, Ian Book likes to throw the ball downfield. So the Georgia secondary needs to be ready, and the Georgia secondary has not been tested this season. All of their opponents so far have been, cupcakes, and I'm sorry, Vanderbilt, that you're included in that. They just really haven't been tested yet. So this is gonna be the first true test for that Georgia secondary. So that will be worth watching.
Okay.
But that being said, my 2 notes on this game: Notre Dame's leading rusher is Ian Book.
And that's not good.
When your quarterback is your leading rusher, you have a problem on offense.
Yes.
That's always been, I've said that time and time again with teams that's never a good thing. And here we are in week 4 of the season, and Notre Dame has a quarterback that is leading its team in rushing.
Yep. Now.
Second thing.
Yes. Number 2.
The Notre Dame defense gave up an average of 230 yards rushing per game against Louisville and New Mexico.
I have that same note right here, right there. Yeah.
Yep. And Georgia is averaging about
750 yards
on the ground,
right
behind some guy by the name of DeAndre Swift.
Yes.
Those 2 things alone, Georgia might cover this. I mean, 13 feels like a big line. I'm feeling pretty good. I think Georgia not only wins but covers.
Okay.
I feel good about the way Georgia's playing right now, and those 2 things lined up does not spell, and the fact that Georgia's playing at home, add that to the mix. In a night game between the hedges. Yeah, go Dogs.
Let's start by saying hello to my summer intern, Gabby, who is a student at Notre Dame.
Hi, Gabby.
She was excited because last weekend's game was the first home game, and it got sunburned and all that stuff. Watching New Mexico get destroyed.
Yeah.
So I mean that was I wanted to make sure we said hello to her. Before I get into what I think is going to happen with this game, which she's not going to be happy about, if you believe what you read, the guys at Georgia hold Notre Dame responsible for keeping them out of the playoff last year, which I can't argue with.
Yep.
We talked on and off about that was the reason for, oh God, somebody please beat Notre Dame already. That's they get the benefit of the doubt. They are a program that big. I think here's the one thing, even with Georgia at that motivation, I think this turns out to be a bigger game for Notre Dame, a more important game for Notre Dame than it is for Georgia. And I say that because if you're playing in the SEC, if you're an elite team in the SEC, from past experience, you can get to the playoff with 1 loss.
Yep.
And we've seen that a bunch. Notre Dame's schedule is not going to do them any favors after this week and next. Especially if you and I are right about Michigan maybe not being as good as everyone thinks. Georgia actually could lose this game and still be fine as far as the playoff goes. Notre Dame cannot lose this game and cannot lose any others. So maybe that's the one thing in favor of the Irish.
Yeah.
Gabby's close personal friend Ian Book is a good quarterback. He's got good receivers. Likes to look downfield. So you're correct. They will press Georgia's pass defense like it has not been pressed so far this year. And I have written down the same thing. Why is your quarterback your best? Your leading rusher. At this point of the season, that's not how that should work.
Yeah.
Last week he rushed for 43, 44 yards. A whole bunch of people got carries. Notre Dame could only muster 157 yards on the ground against New Mexico. That's a problem. Notre Dame's defense is a bigger issue. They're giving up 230 per game on the ground, as you mentioned. That's also a problem. And if you think back to the first show of the season when we were talking about our Final Fours, and I think we both mentioned Georgia's enormous, experienced, and talented offensive line blocking for DeAndre Swift and other folks who are averaging 280 a game. Anything can happen when Notre Dame plays, right? That weird Notre Dame thing. Mm-hmm. Upsets are always on the table. It's sort of in a technical sense. Gabrielle, I'm sorry. I'm not. I don't think this game is going to be close. In fact, I think Georgia's going to cover, and probably pretty easily. So, sorry, Notre Dame folks. But we're not going to be paying that close of attention to you this season because your loss is coming up on Saturday. Folks, you can find the Carla and Crappy Show on iTunes, on Stitcher, TuneIn, and now Spotify.
Woo!
As well as on a variety of other podcasting services. You can also watch us babble on YouTube and on our Facebook page. If you dig the show, please rate and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. And as always, come back next week to find out exactly how wrong we were. Like me saying Indiana would cover against Ohio State. That was an incorrect thing by me.
Or me saying that Middle was going to beat Duke.
Well, yeah, okay.
That wasn't close either.
There was another one. That was another one. Carla, any thoughts about this week?
So the one game that, because I don't think Notre Dame and Georgia is going to keep me entertained all evening.
Right.
A game to have on the flip that just because it could be stupid silly.
Okay.
Oklahoma State at Texas.
Yes.
The over-under in that game is 73 points. I still say take the over in that one.
Okay.
The Texas defense is giving up over 400 yards per game.
Yeah, that has not been good. Apparently not Tom Herman's strength.
Yeah, no. And Sam Ehlinger already has almost 1,000 yards passing on the Texas offense going up against that Oklahoma State defense. Yeah, take the over. That's going to get real silly real fast. And a whole lot of orange on that field. So, yeah, enjoy that one on the flip if you get bored with Notre Dame, Georgia.
And that's going to be fun. I'm working on Saturday night. I will have multiple televisions set up in front of me with Ohio State's on at 3:30, so I'll be there for most of that game, and then we've got the night games, and I'm gonna make the most out of having to work on a Saturday evening. Carla, welcome to your new studio.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Congratulations. Very seriously, I'm glad you guys have made this switch, and
Yes.
we'll take a look and see exactly how many boxes are still on the floor in your office.
Is that another index? Carla's box countdown index?
That's a great idea.
As opposed to the
Can you work up a logo
index?
for that for next week?
I'll see what I'll put that on my list. Working on that now. Okay.
Okay. Excellent.
Yep. Got it.
Anyway, congratulations. Enjoy maybe a slightly more leisurely weekend, and hope you get to watch some stuff.
Me too.
Yeah, sweet. Guys, you do the same. Have a great weekend watching college football, and be sure to join us next week. We will be back for more fun just like this. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.